Hey guys, CG Inferno here today, and today's video I'll be talking about my experience playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth at an event that was held in London a few weeks ago now, and I'll be going over the story that I played and the gameplay and giving like my final impressions as well. So first of all, I want to say thank you Square Enix for inviting me out, and yeah, let's just jump right into it. Now for the event itself, I'll gloss over a bit. It was quite a nice space, honestly. I've not been to that particular area in London in a very long time. I didn't take too many pictures. I'm not really a picture person myself, but honestly I should have probably just taken pictures of like what's going on there and everything, but I don't know, maybe next time I'll do that if I get invited for something else. But overall, the event itself was nice. Food was pretty good except for the rice, which I think they left it a bit too long, but everything else was good there. And yeah, it's just just a great environment to be in at that day. But obviously we all know what we're here for, and that is the game itself. So we got to play chapter 1 and 2 of Rebirth, but unfortunately I'm not allowed to talk about chapter 1, which I kind of don't blame them for not telling them to us to like not talk about it. But yeah, for that one you're just gonna have to wait. But honestly, I enjoyed what I played for chapter 1, and I thought it was like a great introduction into the game and stuff as well. But chapter 2 is what we get to talk about and show gameplay for and everything as well. So I'll just have some gameplay in the background here and there. Chapter 2 starts off in calm with the events of the night before, showing that there's a bit of a friction between the team, slightly. Obviously I can't really talk about the details, but you'll see when you play the game. Now, before leaving the inn, we are introduced into a new mini game that is called Queen's Blood. The game teaches you how to play it and how it works. It's not too hard to understand, honestly, and I think it's quite a great mini game to like just relax and do. And it is pretty easy at the start, especially when you're facing like other NPCs that are in the area as well. But I would assume later down the line, more NPCs will become a bit more tougher with like their higher tier cards and everything as well. As for finding these NPCs, you'll see them on the world map with a little icon to signify that they can be played against. They usually tell you how many there are in the area as well. So on average, in the first town you'll see that there's 3, but I would assume maybe in other towns there might be a bit more. After the whole tutorial introduction, you're basically tasked around to go on certain shops to check your equipment and skills before another story segment starts. So essentially Shinra come down looking for our heroes, and then we must pretty much skip town. Upon leaving town then, we reach the grasslands area, which you've seen a bit before in some of the previews, but now we have like the full access to it in the time I played it. Now obviously I can't give you all the details of chapter 2, even though I didn't even finish it because I wouldn't even say we didn't have enough time. It's just that there's a lot to do, especially if you want to try and do everything, considering how big the area was. But yeah, they told us not to really talk too much about the story, so I'll just end it there. But in terms of story in itself, I did enjoy chapter 1 and 2, and I think a lot of people will enjoy that as well when they actually play it. And the pacing for it as well was pretty good as well, so I got no complaints there. But I am definitely curious to see how the full game will be, so we'll just have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, that's enough of the story. As for the gameplay, it's more or less similar to Remake, although it's slightly upgraded in some places. Those characters have some adjustments done to their previous movesets. For example, Cloud, if you do a dodge and start attacking after, you'll see his sword imbued with wind, and that changes up his attack. Didn't get to see it with all the characters, but it's nice to know that the team gave the crew some updates. I did play a bit more with Red 13, which I didn't get to do in my last chance I got to play at MCM Comic Con a few months ago, and honestly I found it quite fun to play. Obviously there'll be new abilities for each character with weapons that you get during your playthrough, and then there are the synergy abilities as well. We've seen a few of these in the trailers and previous previews as well, but there are still more to be unlocked with the new Folius. So basically this system is what allows you to upgrade your characters, obtain new synergy abilities and synergy skills. There's more stuff to be unlocked here as well, but my stupid ass obviously didn't really to look at all of the stuff, considering that I was a bit tight on time and I just kind of wanted to play the game. But there is quite a bit to be unlocked in that Folius system. Now of course, to unlock these skills you need SP, and it's pretty much guaranteed in this game that you need to get it anyway. So similar to Remake, you get these from a variety of ways of doing quests, side missions, and that also includes finding manuscripts as well, which is back in the game, which I guess that means, you know, hard mode will be there as well, and you just have to go through the game. Hopefully hard mode's a bit more enjoyable this time, because in Remake, I will not lie, it definitely did get tedious at certain points of the game. Weapons can also be bought in the shops as well, or you can find them in purple treasure chests. Now, I am kind of curious to see what the game does. So if you do buy a weapon from the shop first, and then you find it in like the open area of the game, more or less, because there is an instance where I actually did find the weapon first, but then I realized that, oh, I could actually bought this weapon at the shop as well. So I don't know what they'll give if you say buy it from the shop and then find it. Maybe they might give you money or something else, maybe a Materia, but yeah, I never got to see that. But yeah, it's good to know that you can actually find half of these weapons on the field as well. Side quests are also back in the game and pretty much are the same as Remake. They offer a bit more lore to the characters that you meet throughout your journey and give you good rewards, deepen your bonds with your allies, and give XP as well. Some of these you can find in the world map, while others will have them posted on notice board in some settlements that you visit. I found this a bit of an upgrade compared to what we've done in Remake, so I think most people will find it easier to find these side quests while exploring the world. Now, in terms of difficulty, dynamic mode is the new difficulty for Rebirth, which syncs up your level with enemies so you're not too underpowered or overpowered depending on where you are in the story. So this is the mode that I actually played on when going to the event. I was kind of curious just to see how it play out, because I know playing on like normal, you probably just breeze through anything. But while I didn't see too much of a challenge when facing enemies or doing some of the world's intels, the only point where I actually got pretty much destroyed was doing the VR simulator mode where I can face the Titan summon. And as expected, I don't really have most of my characters geared out at that point. I was literally doing like minimal damage to Titan and he was just slapping him up within like 2-3 hits. But yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how this mode will work on New Game Plus. Probably by then you probably just breeze through everything anyway. Obviously you'll have hard mode probably unlocked through finishing the game as well, but we just have to wait and see. But yeah, overall dynamic mode was pretty fun. I think that is a good balance between not having it too hard and too easy. You just go at a steady pace, and some fights can obviously be a bit challenging, but yeah. There are now new materia in the game that you can get as well during your playthrough, which I honestly expected. I think everyone expected at that point. Now, one of them that I did actually get and I was very happy about, honestly, I'm kind of curious about, was the Precision Defense 1, which basically allows you to do a perfect parry. So obviously Cloud has something similar in his Punisher mode, however he still does take damage in this one, but with this material, basically when you block with the R1 button, unless you actually change it and stuff, it will allow you to parry an enemy attack. Now, will it allow you to do all moves? I do not think so, but I think the majority of physical moves you can easily parry, and it will put the enemy off balance for a few seconds, allowing you to like deal additional damage or even break them or put them under pressure or something. But yeah, it's a new way to, I guess, have a different defensive option, and I think a lot of people will probably be using this for like the majority of like the whole game. I probably will be myself, I'll probably be using it for the whole game, but depending on some fights it might have to come off. But honestly, I think literally everyone will be using it as well. Of course, there are a bit more materials to be found as well, and I'm assuming later down the line you get even more material. But yeah, that Precision one was probably like the best one that I found out there so far anyway. Now, in terms of new, there are weapon skills that are in the game. So each character has a slot that allows them to equip a weapon skill, and these skills will give them a buff or more strength or something depending on whichever you choose. There's only 2 to choose from now, but I would assume there'll be way more to unlock down the line as well. So for example, Tifa has a skill which gives her increased duration of unbridled strength by 50%. And honestly, I found that quite intriguing to give straight away, because considering how Tifa is in the game, she is pretty good still. But yeah, it allows us to give or make characters a lot more OP. It gives us more variety to go on in terms of like builds and everything compared to the first game. Now, whether this feature will break the game or not, we will just have to wait and see. But I actually enjoyed this new feature. It just gives a bit more identity to some of these characters. Now, continuing on the topic of new features, we do have the item transmuter that's been added to Rebirth, and you might have seen this in the last preview or some other videos as well, but I'll give a tiny bit more detail on it on how it works. So in the world of Rebirth, you will find materials in the areas that you explore and the enemies you defeat. You'll also find rare materials as well during your travels, which will have different marks to the rest of the materials that you find. Using these said materials, you can use the item transmuter to craft a variety of items, and this will also increase your craftsmanship level. And when you do increase your craftsmanship level, this allows you to unlock new items that you can craft. Now, when you're actually crafting these new items, they do cost quite a bit of material to be used for them, but when you actually want to craft them again, the requirements for these actually drop considerably. So yeah, it's not too bad in the end. It's just that the first one will always be pretty bad, but that's what also allows you to get XP for leveling up your craftsmanship and allowing you to craft even new items. Now, I would assume most people be wondering if they're being allowed to craft accessories and weapons and armor, and yes, you can do that. Now, for me, I only reached level 4 of craftsmanship, but that's what allowed me to start crafting accessories. So instead of you just having to buy accessories all the time, you can actually craft them and save your money as well for something else maybe. As for weapons, I would assume that'll be way down later down the line, but we'll just have to wait and see. But yes, that is there for you to be done, so it's not hard to collect. You'll see marks on it, especially when you have your chocobo as well. So easily, when you're just exploring the world, just pick up any item that you see on the floor. Now, in terms of returning characters, Chadley is back. And just like Remake, he does have tasks for you to do during your travels. So when you're exploring the grasslands, you might see some towers in the distance. You can't interact with them until you actually find Chadley first, as it tells you that these were owned by the Old Republic but have been dormant since Shinra took over them. Now, accessing these towers will show you some key locations to head to and see what they hold, and these are called World Intel. You will find plenty of these in your travels as well, so be sure to do them, as doing them you actually might meet some interesting characters that you've seen from the first game. Chadley still also has his VR simulation area, which basically works the same as Remake. You go into a VR world and you do certain trials to gain either new abilities or new summons, maybe some upgrades for your characters as well. So right off the bat, Titan is there to be fought. Now, can you fight him? Most likely yes, especially if you're like a god gamer, but I was severely underbuild as I spoke earlier and it didn't go too well, but it is there for you to be done. And one new feature that's been added to the VR room is to lower the difficulty in some of these said fights. So in Titan, it says you can fight him at full power, but if you do have the summoning crystals that you find during your travels, you can actually make the lower requirement, like the difficulty basically in a sense, a lot easier. Now these summoning crystals I didn't get to find during my travels, but Chadley did kind of mention about it, and I would assume that they'll probably be marked on the map somewhere for you to go and get. But it is quite nice to know that they are thinking of like all players, but I would assume most players will probably just fight it normally or just come back to it later. Me, I'll probably just not use that feature for a while. I might just test it to see how it is, but considering how the game is already, I don't think half of these fights will be too challenging. With all that said and done, that is me done for the video. I don't want it to be too long. I don't want to continue rambling about it. I kind of want people to experience the game for themselves as well, so I don't really want to go too deep into some of these stuff. But from what I played, I honestly expecting Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to be a banger of a game. The gameplay feels a lot more refined now. There are new material to be found, there's places to be explored, new stuff to be found, new secrets and everything. So honestly, I'll probably be enjoying this game quite a bit, especially now that we're given a bit more freedom compared to Remake, where it's just pretty much from point A to point B. We also have a new mini game to play as well, which I honestly found quite fun, considering that most of these times I don't really find card mini games too interesting. I think the last one that I actually played fully was probably from Trails of Cold Steel, and yeah, that's like the only one. Even that one was a bit tedious to an extent. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do have any questions about the game, I'll try and answer them. Obviously, when it comes to chapter 1, I cannot talk about it for spoiler reasons, but anything for chapter 2 or any gameplay stuff, you know where I am. Again, thank you Square Enix for inviting me out, and yeah, I'll see you guys later.